Welcome to this Business Central launch event session in the 2023 release wave 2, What's New in Telemetry. In this session, I'm going to talk a little bit about different insights you can get from telemetry data. So focusing on performance and errors, talking a little bit about a new data that is coming soon in version 23 or later, or in a minors to 23. Some tips and tricks, and finally resources for you to go home and do more. For performance, since the last launch event video for Wave 1, we added AI-assisted performance analysis to the Power BI app. So Business Central is released twice a year in these two release waves, and the minor updates to Business Central come in typically for the online service 4 different minors. The Power BI app and the telemetry is released pretty much on a monthly schedule. So what you see here in this session is whatever was released since May 2023. So the first is AI-assisted performance analysis. Each page in the performance report now have AI assistance. So there's a generated summary, there is key insights, and other things. And I'll walk you through these to kind of give you an idea of how you can use this. The first is that there is a text representation, a summary in English of whatever is happening in this report. And this is for all the reports or the pages in the performance report. This might not show any data, or it might not show anything interesting, because this really depends on what the AI, what kind of data the AI has available. If you don't have a lot of data, it might just not show you. If it has a lot of variety and variance in that data, it might show you some insights. So don't despair if there's nothing here for you to analyze. The next key thing is something called key influencers, a visual that is on all these report pages. The key influencers will analyze the data and pick up patterns. So for instance, for this data set, the AI picked that apparently that there is one app here where there's a regression. There's a performance regression, and you can see this app compared to other apps, and maybe there's something interesting there. You can then click on whatever insights or dimension to this is interesting, and then the report will filter to that below, and you can kind of investigate further as a human what the AI assisted you that this might be interesting. So key influencers is one. Another similar analysis is top segments. Again, the AI will do a segmentation of all the data and look for patterns in different clusters and present you these clusters. Then you can click on a segment, and that would filter the rest of the report to that segment. The third type of analysis that we added is helping you to do root cause analysis. So this is called a decomposition tree. And this is the AI part of this is that the AI will actually suggest high or low values that influence this thing, whatever that thing you are investigating is. In this report, we are looking at page views. And for page views, we want to see what influenced the load time of pages. And then the AI will suggest the most likely thing that explains things, which in this case here was the table information page. If I then click the high value, it would find the next dimension to this problem. And then finally, these are not really AI, but these are just for your convenience. Before you dive into the detailed report, there is now a top 10 slowest, and both on a tabular form and on a graph, where you can then kind of see what are my top 10 most urgent things to fix. Again, you can click one of these and the report will filter to that. Okay, so that was AI. Then a few small things we added is that for API calls, when you call into Business Central with OData and API, We have a queuing mechanism in the server to make sure that you cannot flood the server with traffic and degrade performance for everyone. We'll actually queue up these calls. In telemetry, you now have data about how much time did your API call spend in the queue, and these queue time statistics are now also showing on the incoming web service calls performance page. For long-running AL, we added both the total and exclusive time in this data, meaning that you can kind of filter away time spent in modal dialogues and others to see either what was the total time spent as seen from the user, but also what was the kind of the tuning potential, which is the exclusive time. And for a long-running AL telemetry, we also added SQL statistics. So for long-running AL, you can also easily see whether this long-running AL is also doing long-running operations on SQL. For job queues, we added the job queue entry description to telemetry. So now the job queue performance reports have a hierarchy here on object name, ID type, and description. So it should be easy for you to kind of see job queue entries that take a long time. And then finally, for reporting, we also added now a section to the Power BI report on both how long time it takes to generate the data set, as well as how long time it took to render the report. So in case you want to dive into performance of reports, it could be that it's either the data set or the layout where time is spent, and you can now use this visual to find that and investigate further. The second insight is errors. So in the error telemetry and the reporting on that, we added a lot of troubleshooting guides in docs to help you troubleshoot web service errors, and these come with support in the Power BI apps. So first, there is improved filtering on HTTP status codes and also visuals that show you errors in incoming web service requests based on HTTP status. So you combine this report with a new troubleshooting guide in docs. For each of these status codes, HTTP status codes, you can now see in docs kind of what does a 400 code mean and what can I do about it. So there's also suggested solutions directly in docs. So you can now go from the insights in Power BI into docs and see, okay, if I get this error, what should I do? Go back to your developers and ask them to go fix things. If you do work with web services and call in web services, it's really important that you set the user agent when you call Business Central, because if you do so, these user agents will then show up in your Power BI error report on web services here. So you can kind of see this particular web service call failed, and it was this client over here, this whatever client, could be Power BI, Power Automate, your own client. If you put that user agent in there, you can actually see where to troubleshoot in your code. You also get exceptions from the server as well as diagnostics message from the server, the AL call stack as well. So that helps you troubleshoot even further. So which client your web service client is having a problem and why. As a new thing in this release, actually this was backported, so it's already available in 22.x. Web service metadata, wrong metadata in the past could actually fail the full web service stack for an environment. Not anymore. So from version 22.x, we will only fail the actual service calls where there's a metadata problem. So with this telemetry and this report, you can now find these endpoints that are failing and then fix them and go to your developers and say, look, this is a problem you need to go fix. Similarly to incoming web services, the The pages for outgoing web services also have improved filtering on status codes and new visuals that also show status codes based on endpoint. Use that together with the troubleshooting guide, go to developers and ask them to fix things. In this case, the developer is likely to be the service you're calling out to and not in your AL code. It could, but that's probably where I would go. We got support for Azure Functions in a system module last year, and now we have also telemetry on usage and errors of Azure Functions and a report to support that. So if you call out to Azure Functions from AL, there's now also a supporting report that can show you errors, and you can use that to alert and fix things. For email module, if you're using SMTP, you probably should. There's new telemetry data from version 22.3, and this new error signal for SMTP is now reflected in the error report on email here, so that you can use this report to troubleshoot email errors and hopefully also alert on this, so that you make sure that your customer's email integration actually works. For job queue, similar to performance, we have descriptions. So job queue entry descriptions is part of telemetry. We also have a better way for you to find non-retriable job queue exceptions, because what we will do on the server for job queues is, if the type of exception that for a failed job queue is fatal, we will stop the job queue. That means you would need to kind of go figure which job queues were stopped and will not. We don't want to retry things where it's obvious that it will fail again. So you get these new visuals to show you non-retriable job queue executions, and also a way to filter this report to find those. And as I mentioned, job queue description is also part of the job queue error telemetry and also part of the job queue error report. There's also one thing is stopping job queues if they fail due to non-retriable exceptions. We actually also stop job queue entries if they exceed the number of retries, and then you need to find out what's going on and then fix it and then enable again. And this new signal is also showed in the job queue error report, so that you can find these repeatable job queue fails and then go figure where they are, go change the code and get them enabled again. If you use the feature telemetry module, which you should as an AL developer, there's an easier way to troubleshoot feature errors. If you use the log error function in the feature module, we now also show you not only the AL call stack, but we also pass the top and bottom of this to make sure that you can see what code failed and in which parts did the failure occur. And then finally, on all on all error pages, we made it easier if there's no data to show. We now show this green banner that states, oh, no data is available, this is great, no connector errors, and so on. So if you see these green banners, that means that this part of the error report is green. There's nothing to show. All right, what is coming soon? As I mentioned, we ship telemetry whenever it's ready in the service, so there's no need to postpone to the next major if something can be put in a minor update or even a platform update in the online service. So that means that these are telemetry things that is likely to come within the next few months. The first is changelog lifecycle events. So whenever a table or a field is added or removed from changelog, you would get a notification or an event here. You could use this to set up alerts in case an administrator suddenly enables telemetry on a ton of things. Or after the fact, let's say that you have a performance problem reported from Friday, you can go into this change report once it's in Telemetry and in the Power BI app and see, oh, there's a lot of change log changes to the configuration on Friday that could be the cause of this performance regression. For per-tenant extensions, there are two new classes of signal. The first is related to the UI, where an administrator can upload PTEs directly or per-tenant extensions directly in the client. We now have these validation signal on that, which means that if you alert on that, you can actually see whether a customer is trying to upload per-tenant extensions and this is failing, these validations fail, and maybe go help them. What's probably much more impactful is that we also, in the service, not on premises, validate per-tenant extensions on environment against next major. So we actually try to compile them on the next major, and then this telemetry is then sent whether these compilation validations succeed or fail. So that means once you get this, you can start alerting on customers where they will be blocked to upgrade to the next major. So I think this alerting on that can help a lot on getting more reactive, proactive probably on potential upgrade blockers for your customers. And then finally, business events is the new kid on the block for version 23. And of course, business events will have coverage with telemetry. So you can also start monitoring your business events usage and errors and so on with telemetry. All right, a few tips and tricks. We have a new page for onboarding signal. So there's onboarding telemetry in Business Central, and now you can also see follow-up on that in Power BI. Could be that this is something that helps your onboarding for the project manager for controlling onboarding. You can see how environments start and finish onboarding criteria across all customers. For the ISVs in the room, the administration report inventory page, you can now see which major version of Business Central your app is installed on. So you can kind of see where your customers are on the base app of Business Central, and then of course see your app, whether you need to fix things in older versions. Okay, so if you kind of liked all the Power BI reports, maybe that's something for you. This is where you get stuff. First of all, the Power BI app on environments is available on App Source. It's called Business Central Usage Analytics. And the counterpart for ISVs is the App Usage Analytics. So both of these apps are available on App Source, and they're free. You just need a Power BI Pro license to consume and refresh. Specifically for Power BI, the documentation of that is under aka.ms/BCTelemetry. And under that section, there's the full article about Power BI, how to enable Power BI, also how to install the apps, how to configure the apps, how to use the apps. So go check that out if this is a new territory for you. A new thing we added in documentation, also under aka.ms/BCTelemetry, is a walkthrough example if you are new to KQL. KQL is the query language for telemetry, Custo query language. We now added a full walkthrough examples, taking you from not being able to write KQL into a small report. We are taking you through analyzing report analytics. So go check that out if you want to start your journey on analyzing KQL. It's not super complicated, and we'll hold your hand through this, and after that you'll be able to kind of slice and dice data in a different way than what you would do with Power BI. And I always, when I talk about alerting, it's important that you also check out to be proactive, alert on telemetry. You can do it in two different ways. One is just no code with Power BI. It's called Power BI metrics. You can set up a scorecard. You can follow certain metrics. You can get alerted in Teams. No developer is involved. You can have your own scorecard, track things your way. And then if you want to be a little bit more complicated or have other needs, you can do what we call low-code alerting with KQL. Either use Power Automate or a Power App or whatever you like, PowerShell, I don't care. And then you need to have alerting conditions. What would you like to alert on? These are expressed with KQL, and there are tons of samples on that available on BCTech. And then you kind of just need to have to set up whatever tool you're using, how often do you run these queries, and which channels you want to alert in. So check out our documentation on alerting on Docs. So, go-dos. Most important thing, if you haven't enabled telemetry, go do it. In deploy an Azure application resource, make sure that you have your cost control done. That's part of the docs. And then add it to the environment. It also works on-prem. The second thing is install the Power BI apps. It requires a Power BI Pro license. And this gives you insights into usage, errors, performance, and changes to environments or to apps. The third go-do is, I think you should start being proactive, set up alerts, either with Power BI metrics, with no code, or some low code with Power Automate, Logic Apps, or your own solution. But the most important is number 4, get data-driven. You start using data to drive decisions in your partner practice. And this, even though this session was maybe a little bit about troubleshooting, you can use telemetry data to get data-driven on your pre-sales, on your go-lives, on your operations, support, and ongoing sales for customers. So the full life cycle of a customer, you can cover that with data-driven decisions, and I hope you will. Other relevant launch event sessions, if you are into this topic, I would strongly consider you, especially for onboarding, to go to the What's New, creating customer-centric onboarding experiences. And a counterpart for that, or maybe a follow-up on that, is performance testing before go live with the performance toolkit. We actually invested a lot in these two to make the onboarding experience better. And the performance toolkit is a way to do concurrency testing and use it, like, can the system handle this load? And of course, the way to analyze all of this performance data is telemetry and Power BI. Resources, as always, take your questions or discussions to Yammer. If it's shorter things, or join the conversation on X, Twitter. BC All is the one and only aka link you need, aka.ms/BC All. All the other short links are available there. If you have great ideas also for telemetry and other things, the BC Ideas short URL is where you should go. And of course, everything we talk about here in the launch event is something we also discuss in office hours, where you can also ask questions and comment. So go to aka.ms/BC office hours to see when is the next available office hour. I do believe all the recordings for previous office hours are there as well. And with that, thank you so much for joining this session on telemetry. I hope you have a great Business Central launch event and watch all the other videos. Thank you.